Hey everybody.
Go ahead, son.
Okay. I'm Maxie J here,
Maxie D.
and today we're celebrating my grandpa Maxie T's 70th birthday. Happy
Yes,
birthday!
that's right. My father, Dr. Maxie T. Collier, today would have been his 70th birthday. Yep.
Yep.
And because he is not here with us, I want to give Jason an opportunity to ask me some questions about his granddad, as well as I encourage many people out there, my peers and friends and family, have your kids, grandkids, have them interview you and your parents and stuff. And let's get some of these family histories documented. All right, son, go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of my questions is that how's my grandpa like? Was he shy? Was he a bit serious? Or was he like you, pretty laid back and like relax?
Your granddaddy Maxie was very serious on the one hand because he started working at a very young age, and he started helping his grandma, your grandma, great grandma Pearlie, and granddaddy James. He was very serious about being a helper to the family from a very young age. But that said, he also had an amazing sense of humor. He loved to tell stories, he loved to tell jokes, and he was always smiling.
That's great. Kind of
Mhm.
like someone else I know. You.
Yes, and kind of like you half the time. No.
Not as much as you.
Yes.
And also, um, what made him become a doctor?
And now hold that note card up real quick, sir.
Okay.
Yep. So you wrote some of your questions down on here in
Alright.
anticipation of this interview, and that's what we tell folks to do. We say write the questions down so that then they can go interview their parents or grandparents. Cool. Question number two.
What made him want to become a doctor?
Okay, so your granddaddy Maxie, when he wanted to be a doctor when he was young, he and your uncle Ronnie, right? And then granddaddy Maxie, he had open heart surgery at 19 years old, right? Not right after he got out of high school. Spending all that time in the hospital during his recovery made him change his mind. He didn't like the hospitals after that point. But what happened is when he got into his 20s, he graduated from college and then he started teaching college. And by that time, he already had four kids. And when he and Grandma Betty moved us up to Maryland, they were teaching college there in Maryland. And at a certain point, when Granddaddy Maxie, by the time he had five kids, he knew he had to do something else other than just being a teacher in order to take care of the big family he wanted. So at 28 years old, he decided he was going to start medical school with six children. Now, most people are normally in their early 20s and usually don't have kids when they start medical school. But he knew he was on a mission. He had a vision, and he followed through. And I was right there at his medical school graduation when I was 9 years old.
You mean you and your other
Yep.
sisters, right?
Me and my brothers and sisters, all of our family was there at his graduation from medical school.
Makes me feel kind of different, but that's another story.
Okay.
And well, also another thing is, do you make a good living in salary?
Good question. Did he make a good living in a salary? So during all of those years, from the time he was in medical school to the time he graduated medical school, that was 4 years, right?
Right.
And he was a student. So he was working part-time, making little bits of money, but mostly it was loans and the family support. So that's when your grandmama Pearlie and Bud Dad, they moved from Tennessee up to Maryland to be and help take care of all of us. So to answer your question, your granddaddy was making very little money the whole time he was in medical school, 4 years. But then after medical school, doctors have to go through another training process, and it's called internship and residence. Now, normally that's 4 years, but your granddaddy was able to do it in 3 years. So for 7 years, your granddaddy was making very little money. And then even after he graduated and after he did his intern and residence, doctors still have to go through something called licensing. And licensing is when they get a certification that approves them to be a doctor. So he had to study for months and months and months for this test. And I remember him being so stressed because if he didn't pass that test, he could have spent 7 years studying and still not be a licensed doctor, right? So I remember when I was 13, he finally passed that test.
My age.
Your age. And that's when he became an official doctor. And then that's when he started making an income like doctors make. And he was very successful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With that question out of the way,
Mhm.
what made him create the so-called Baltimore Project?
Ah, good. What did you read about the Baltimore Project?
I didn't read too much about it. I just saw in one of the articles I read about him.
Okay.
I didn't really go to it.
No, that's a good question. So after your granddad graduated from medical school, after he became an official doctor, a psychiatrist, he started an interest in public health. And so he started eventually working for the health department in Baltimore, first as an associate health commissioner, and then he became the youngest and the first African American health commissioner in Baltimore. So the job of the health commissioner, that's a person who is an advisor to the mayor,
Hmm.
and they help plan medical and health related things for the whole city of Baltimore.
Yeah, I remember reading the article of how you wanted to stop teenagers from having sex.
Well, right, he wanted to help reduce teen pregnancy because at that time in Baltimore, it had the highest population of teen pregnancy. It had some of the fastest growing HIV and AIDS rates. It had some of the fastest growing drug use. And so he helped create projects to help address those issues.
Nice, thank you.
Yep.
It sounds like a great man. And the main
Yep.
question is he still well known today? I mean, in 2015, do still quite a number of people know him even after 21 years?
Great question, son. So, is he still well known today? Okay, I'll tell you about a very interesting experience. In 2001, when your mom was pregnant with you, she got invited to Africa to show a movie that she made, right? But because she was pregnant, she couldn't go. So she sent me in her place. And I also did a presentation on digital filmmaking, and I was there in West Africa, in Burkina Faso, West Africa, for 2 weeks. Well, how about this? While I was on the plane there going from Paris to Africa, I met someone who knew your granddaddy Maxie. Then when I was there in Africa, I met two or three people who had met him, including people who had met him when he was in Africa doing visits. And this was in 2001, and it was years after he had passed away.
Yeah,
So,
but that hadn't even been 10 years though. I mean, it's 21 years now. I don't think it's pretty forgotten.
well, fortunately, your granddaddy is not forgotten because there are so many people there in Baltimore, so many people in Maryland whose lives he impacted, so many people in Tennessee whose lives he impacted, and they remember him. But then there's also programs like at Coppin State College, which is a school in Baltimore. They have a scholarship that they give out, and it's called the Maxie T Collier Scholars, right? And they give this scholarship to people who go to college and decide that they want to study social work or psychology or medicine or things that were interest of your granddaddy. So how about that program has been around for 20 years? And there are dozens and dozens of students who have received money in Granddaddy Maxie's name in order to go to college and study. So, and then in Baltimore, in the health department, there is a room where they have press conferences, right? And it's called the Maxie T Collier Press Room. That's in the mayor's building there in Baltimore.
Well, do you think I know there's an additional question, but you think
Mhm.
anybody, like whenever somebody would talk about my grandpa, would you ever like mention me about how, like you had me?
Of course, you are named after your grandpa, just like I was named after him. But just like he named me with a different middle initial, Maxie D, I named you with a different middle initial, Maxie J, Josh's son. Because for your granddaddy, Maxie T, it was very important for me, even though I was named after him, it was very important for him for me to develop my own identity and to become who. In fact, that's one of the main things I have to thank my dad and mom for is that they always encouraged us to explore the things we were most excited about in life and to learn the things that were important in our hearts and our minds and to go pursue them, to go work hard to pursue
Yeah,
them. Yes. So now I know you got other questions, but we want to keep this short.
I
I know it's great. But what I'll do is, as you give me these other questions, we're going to ask them, we're going to answer them with your granddad, with your uncle Ronnie and your aunt Janine, with your other aunts and uncles, and we're going to get more questions answered for you. But in the meantime, we just want to say once again, happy birthday, Pops.
happy birthday, granddad.
That's right. And we know you're here with us in spirit, and we know that one day your son is going to be talking to his kids about you too.
Yeah, I will.
That's right.
If you even hear this,
Yes, his spirit is with us, son. It is.
to be honest.
Yep. All right. Thank you for watching the video. If you knew my dad and Jason's granddad, Maxie T. Collier, and you want to add a comment, we would love to hear your story about Dr. Maxie T and how he may have impacted your life.
Yeah, and also don't forget, and also it's not a major thing, but I also have it on a YouTube channel where
Yes,
I
you
do
do.
playthroughs on games. like on Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog games and
That's right.
just other Nintendo stuff in general. So if you need, and also I do character impressions. So if you want to subscribe to my channel, that would really help out a lot. But that's just a minor thing. So the major thing is my granddad. So really make sure you comment about him if you know about him.
And what's the name of your channel, son?
Mario Addict C.
Mario Addict C, making Let's Play video game commentary.
The link will be in the description below. Bye.
Bye-bye.